Yuri Kuma. This episode of Yuri Kuma pretty much clarifies a lot. Like, it pretty much lets us know kind of slightly where the plot is going to go. And honestly, it felt like they threw out the social norms in these recent episodes. I actually want to take a moment to say that. So, you remember how I spoke and talked about, episode 3, like it was my episode 3 or 4 review. I was talking about how the series is kind of dealing with the controversial topic of lesbian love. Well, with this, it feels like they've kind of threw away that entire concept, and they're kind of moving into a different type of story, because from what this episode makes me perceive, is that there is two different kingdoms split. You have the bear kingdom and the human kingdom, and from the way this episode was shown, is that the humankind, the humans, were coming away, like going over the wall, like the Wall of Severance, and they were attacking bears. And you had it to where these bears, like these bears that were, abandoned, and they had no parents, and, they were pretty much useless in society in the bear kingdom. Pretty much they were just thrown on the war front to fight these humans that were invading and coming across the wall. So in this episode, I felt like it added in a little bit of religion. It added in seeing how, these people, like certain children have been abused and, they were alone at birth, and then they're being forced in these situations of being able to fight on the front lines to make up, like, children are pretty much just being used on the bear side. And then you have it to where the human side, they're kind of being shown as the evil side in this episode. Like, from the majority of the episodes we have seen from Yuri Kuma, usually it's the bears that look like they're the evil ones. But from what we see in this episode, it seems like the humans are in fact the evil ones. Let me explain. So, from what we understand, is that the Wall of Severance is in place to keep the humans out of the bear's kingdom, and also to keep the bears out of the humans' kingdom. And the only way to cross this is if you have, like, true love between each other. And the thing is, with this episode, it pretty much lets us know that you cannot go on either side. And if you do, you become a criminal. For instance, criminal bear and stuff like that. And if you go across it, you will be killed. And so, that's really interesting. Like, I like that so far. I really like getting to see the different perspective, like, from the bear's perspective in this episode. Like, you get to see both versions. You get to see the humans getting destroyed and wrecked, and then you get to see the bears getting destroyed and wrecked. We got to see the both sides of this conflict between the bears and the humans in the middle portion of this episode. So, moving past that, now, there's a lot of metaphorical things, once again, in this episode. Everybody can take the symbolism differently from each other, so if you all have any interesting theories to share, I would gladly actually look forward to seeing some of them, because this episode had a lot you could really pick from it. But getting into something that was really obvious, in this episode, it's finally clarified that Kurtaha and Genko were once friends. And supposedly, Kurtaha in the past, she forgot she had a friend. Like, she forgot she had a friend called Genko at all. And that was a bear. She forgot this, and in this episode, she finally finds the path, and she remembers the friend she once had, and it was Genko. And so to see this in this episode, we get to see, how it's clarified that the person we saw in the flashback, like an episode or two back with Genko's flashback, with, how that girl walked on the battlefield and gave, Genko the pendant and all that, we found out it was actually Kurtaha that did that. And so you also have it on the human side, like that teacher, that the counselor or whatever, that was, talking with Kurtaha in this episode, and has been talking to her almost every single episode. Well, in this episode, she says that the bear that stole the pendant from your mother needs to be killed, needs to be punished. And it's obvious Kurtaha knows this. So I wonder. I just wonder what direction that is going to take. I really do. So, the episode overall, another really good episode of Yuri Kuma. It was. It's slightly confusing once again. The plot is starting to become more coherent, though. You're starting to be able to understand it a lot more by the episode, and I like that. That's what I'm really liking about Yuri Kuma, because the plot, by the episode, you're being able to understand it a whole lot more, and that's pretty much what this episode goes to show us. If you stick around and you enjoy the series and just enjoy the ride, everything will start making sense, because it's starting to make a lot more sense since the first episode. Like, this episode explains quite a bit. So, tell me your thoughts. I mean, how do you feel about this week's episode of Yuri Kuma? You all have a wonderful day or not wherever you live. Please be safe. Chibi out.